Welcome to Launch Control Multi-Market System Mastermind, and thank you all for joining here. So, first of all, I would like to welcome our pilot speaker here to open this series of events, and it's the utmost pleasure to introduce Lauren Swedenborg from Rebuilt Realty. So, I believe having Lauren here would give everyone an opportunity to gain some firsthand knowledge from an enterprise level director of marketing working with Rebuilt for the past couple of years. And of course, Lauren's been irreplaceable in successfully scaling that business into 10 plus markets across 6 states. And to just introduce myself briefly before I hand it over to Lauren, this is Catherine Aston, and I'm the director of customer experience here with Launch. So all things customer facing are kind of my niche. So Lauren and I will really do our best to expand on multi-market system from an REI perspective today, but also introduce some SMS best practices on my end on how you could utilize all that for your own strategy. Lauren, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate the introduction.
Thank you for being here. And again, talking about our topic today, are you in multiple markets or ready to make the leap is going to be my first question. So let's just start a quick poll here. I'll start one real quick. And you guys vote. Just let me know. Have you been operating in multiple markets already, or have you just started thinking of scaling up markets and looking to scale? Okay, here we are. So please cast your vote. I'll be closing in a couple of minutes. Awesome. All right, we got a solid mixed crowd here, and it's multi-markets, looking to scale. So definitely as colorful as we wanted, considering the agenda. Okay. All right, I'll leave it open for a little bit more. Lauren, are we ready to kick it off with the first question for the day?
Sure, let's go for it.
All right, so Lauren, just to start from the origins, we all know here in Launch Control internally your team as one of the biggest teams we're working with. So how did you guys scale to multiple markets to start with? I think that was a journey.
Yeah, it was. Just a bit of a background on Rebuilt and who we are. We started as a single market out of Lexington, Kentucky back in 2018. Our 3 founders quickly realized the success of the business. So they went ahead and moved into Nashville and Philadelphia. And that was purely because that's where our founders were based out of. There was not a data-driven decision behind moving into those markets. However, I'm sure a lot of you know that Nashville is a very successful marketplace for wholesaling. So, excuse me, from there, we have scaled now in the beginning of 2023, and we're in 10 plus marketplace, and we have access of over 6 states. And outside of just wholesaling, we've vertically integrated our business. So we have property management, title, lending, lending and brokerage all underneath us now. So pretty quickly we were able to scale, but that was not without a lot of trial and error, that's for sure.
Exactly. Understandable. And also building a huge team and doing anything in real estate practically is a thing of just taking your chances and then using the opportunity and also learning on some of your mistakes. Of course, I mean, everyone makes them. And also I know that your team did a little bit of launch control accounts setup restructuring. So maybe we started working on that around 6 months ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. And
yeah, about that.
And now you guys are using enterprise. So just talking about the enterprise setup and how it works for you and your team, what do you think are, let's say, the biggest benefits compared to that multi-account setup that you had previously, considering that we also did design the enterprise accounts specifically for multi-market users?
Sure. Well, when we first started entering into multiple markets, we were really excited to take what we did know, which in hindsight was not as much as we should have known, and went full force into markets. We had each individual market was almost set up like a franchise. They had their own full staff. So they had an acquisition specialist who handled all their lead intake. They had sales reps. They had a market director that took care of the whole funnel from top to bottom. They had their own office and tools. And on top of that, we also gave them free reign to utilize the tools that the corporate wanted them to use. So that would include launch control, how they sent their direct mail through our vendor selection there, gave them everything that they needed. And their budget was pretty loose. It was pretty relaxed. And we quickly realized in the end of 2021, we had all these markets open. We were seeing a lot of turnover, a lot more failure than we were wanting. And so one of the biggest structural changes we had to make was within marketing. So those two key marketing factors that we were using was direct mail and launch control. And leaving launch control within the market was not sustainable because the main goal of each market is to get appointments and run those appointments and get contracts so that we can move deals to investors. And when you're relying on someone to run appointments all day, but also navigate launch control, you're setting yourself up to fail. So pretty quickly, after we had centralized direct mail, we also centralized ourselves with a contact center out of our Nashville headquarters so that all lead sourcing funnels through here. Our sales team is not responsible for answering the phones. They're not responsible for follow-up. That is all centralized, that we could centralize and use enterprise for launch control and start actually making money off of launch control. Because previously we had about 3 accounts per market on average, 10 markets, and they weren't using it. So we were spending, $30,000 on nothing. we weren't using it the way we should have, right? We knew the scalability of it, but we just weren't doing it correctly. So centralizing this was one of the better decisions we made. And we're immediately seeing the return on results on that.
Lauren, that's great news. And guys, just hearing this layout and how Lauren and her team got everything centralized and structured out differently and just made the hands of the people free to do what their duty was on the team. That's a very important thing. I'm sure that we have beginner investors here. Some of you are not with launch control or not yet. And some of you have been experienced launch control users as well. So of course, some of you just work as a one-man army currently, right? And some of you have already established full teams, structured stuff with your VAs, with your acquisition specialists. So I would just like to ask, okay, I see a particular name, Katya. Okay, maybe not sure if Katya is ready to speak now. So basically anyone that has multiple markets right now. How do you guys disposition your team's efforts? So Lauren is going to be expanding on this question a little bit further in terms of team roles. But what do you do to start with? Starting from your VA, do you do it on your own? Is there a handoff between your VA and the acquisition specialist, potentially? Anyone that would like to speak to that? Okay, feel free to raise hands if any. Let me see. Okay, I'll try to just call out a name and just ask a couple of questions. We got Will Weebold here. Hello, Will.
Hello.
Joining. Will, talking about the utilization of just VA's time. What do you prefer to do in terms of, does a VA pick up the phone too? Does a VA just text? Do you prefer to do a part of it on your own? Any other roles in your team that you would find useful for just this kind of a structure?
Yeah, well, my team was pretty large about a year ago, and it shrunk recently. But I can say I made quite a few mistakes growing the team and bringing people in that were less qualified or not. Probably my fault for not training them correctly. So right now, I've kind of brought it back to the basics, and I'm taking most of the calls. I've got my mom, my cousin, and my wife working with us as well. So they're all capable of taking the calls and dispositioning leads as well. But as we grow and scale throughout the rest of this year, I would love to use VAs. Just got to find the right ones. I've had quite a few issues over the last 10 years with VAs, so I guess I'm a little bit hesitant, but I know they're a huge benefit if you find the right ones. And some of my buddies use them like to great success. So,
Of course, thanks a lot for sharing, Will. And I see Ken here in the chat box mentioning that they got 4 people in a team, 2 VAs. Lauren, also Ken has a question for you. So define, centralize, and which tools do you use to accomplish this? So if you'd like to get back to this.
Sure.
One. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I say centralizing, I mean taking it out of the field and bringing it into headquarters. And we opened our headquarters back in beginning of 2022 after we went through Series A funding. So I understand that there is a vast difference between having a headquarters and having a team of 4. But centralizing essentially means taking away any marketing efforts, any data efforts from your sales team and giving it to the proper resource. So if you have 2 VAs, giving them the opportunity to get on launch control, to spend your money, sourcing leads, answering the phones, whether that be cold calls or inbounds, that's a better use of your time. So you're centralizing that in that space. We centralized everything from marketing. So direct mail, PPL, launch control, we centralized, like I said, our contact center, and we also centralized buyer dispositions. So again, we're just taking things away from our sales reps so that they can focus solely on getting contracts.
Right, Ken, I believe that was plenty of expansion, but very good question. Thank you for participating in the conversation, Ken. And Lauren, how do you balance REI training with SMS training when taking marketing tasks away from core staff? Is my follow-up question to this.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry. So how do you balance the REI training and versus SMS training when just taking marketing tasks away from core staff?
Sure. So when we're giving things to VAs, when we onboard VAs, I should say, one of the biggest struggles that we had with even our core staff was realizing that our training wasn't up to par. So we've spent a substantial amount of time building out training programs and employing one of our core staffs to create weekly REI training for our VAs. Specifically, since we're working in the US and our VAs are mainly based out of the Philippines, giving them insight as to what's happening in the US, and some jargon and some experience that they can at least turn to when they're working in SMS. As far as SMS training goes, we utilize Launch Control to do a lot of our training for us. Anytime I can pass off to an expert, I'm going to do that. And then on top of that, I do host bi-monthly calls with each of my VAs and ask where they're struggling, where their strengths are at, and where they feel like they could be better utilized to ensure that I'm putting them in the right position. And especially trying to get those who are really active and really understand what we're doing, moving them up into leadership roles so that they can actually run my VA teams for me. My end goal at the end of 2023 is to not talk to VAs, is to have my VAs run my VAs that run my VAs, because they know what they're doing and they get it done quickly. You just have to be willing to invest in the training.
Lauren, working with your teams closely especially for the past half a year, I think, and thank you for expanding on that. So as you see, guys, there's, yeah, that was a good point. VAs running VAs. Well, that's, as far as, myself managing my team and on this end as well, that's a team that works on customer education. So whenever we're talking strategy, if any of you guys haven't attended those strategy calls, success at launchcontrol.us. So those guys are probably going to share some strategy tricks, not just let you know how to, which button to press or which button to avoid, but they're really going to share all these gems that we get from conversations with people like Will or Lauren here, or anyone else from you in this room. Like we just gathered your REI knowledge and we implement it into SMS marketing practices. So the whole thing is us working together. It's a knowledge share, and I've really tremendously enjoyed working with Lauren and her team talking about that. So just basically having utilize and launch team as a resource, and it's the type of a service we offer to everyone. Obviously Lauren has a whole different game on her end geared up as well, so that's a great combination, I would say. Again, just going back to a couple of questions regarding the multi-market system. So thank you, Lauren, for expanding on this. I'd like to pose the question about the list segmentation, the team performance KPIs. So just how do you segment your data before importing into Launch Control? Is there any criteria that you find specific that helps you organize your KPIs later on to better fit the multi-market approach through two centralized enterprise accounts?
Sure. So back when we centralized direct mail, we made a huge effort to create a key code system that allowed us to section out our marketing efforts and our campaigns so that we knew exactly what campaign was associated to what phone number. And that's how we section out the mail or the Launch Control data that we input, and how we divide it up between our VAs. So for example, if a key code is 9 numbers and or letters combination, it'll say which market it's coming from. It'll say, is it targeted? Is it mail? Is it texting? Is it owner occupied? Is it absentee? Is it multifamily? Is it commercial? Is it land? How long have they owned it for? Is it 10 to 20 years, 5 to 10, 1+? And lastly, the tax appraised value that we work within. So that's how we segment out all of our campaigns. Those are then input into Launch Control, and I have VAs working specific markets so that they know and can stay on top of, and we can manage how many texts are being sent per market. But that's essentially a very generalized breakdown of it. But when you're using systems like CallRail or Five9, we utilize both. We started with CallRail, but we're able to push the numbers we already created through CallRail into Five9 now. We're able to track all of our marketing spend that way. So it's a little bit more sophisticated and it takes a little bit more work, but we're actually then able to take a step back after texting for 2 weeks, see where the responses came from, see where we got appointments, see where leads converted, and then make adjustments to our marketing because we can see where the key codes were activated.
That sounds like an amazing idea. Thank you, Lauren, for expanding. If anyone, okay, so how are you tracking your marketing spend? What's the name of the website? Okay, Lauren, if you could provide any information to this question from Lorenzo, that would be good.
Yeah, we use NinjaCat right now to do all of our marketing data. We can pull in any marketing asset and key code into there, and it'll track it and pull all of the spend and budget and allocation for us. It'll tell us, you can build out the spreadsheets any way you'd like, but we want to see, cost per appointment, cost per lead, cost per call. We can break it all out that way.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And someone else sharing some more tips. So guys, this is a great networking opportunity. It's a great knowledge share opportunity. So please feel free to utilize the chat box to just talk among yourselves as well. Lauren, thanks. So talking about,
I saw a question from Ken too about VAs and the language barrier. We can really dive into this with my keyword practice that I use, but there's always going to be slip ups, and yes, the sarcasm is not read all the time, and they push some very odd leads through that you're like, okay, that clearly was a joke or a very rude thing to say, but they don't understand that. So I think Duolingo is a great way to have your VAs hopefully better understand a conversation if it's a little bit more on the sarcastic side. But something that we did with our VAs Catherine, do you mind me diving into this right now?
Sure, no problem.
Cool. Okay. So our VAs are solely there to send out batches, respond to them, and disposition them correctly into our CRM and to our contact center. Basically, what I wanted to use our VAs for was to remove that initial contact that takes up a lot of time and a lot of space. The cost to employ someone at my contact center versus a VA is substantially more. So I'll use the VAs to send the batches and sort through and push the positive leads through. I anticipate that each time someone responds, a VA has about 3 to 4 messages with them before they push a lead over to be called or contacted. I don't want them to be texting a lot. I don't see a huge benefit in that unless someone says, I will only speak to you this way. And to avoid any oddness in the way that they're writing to them or speaking back and forth, is that I've created a whole spreadsheet system based on keywords. So if someone responds to our message and says, yes, sure, okay, send me an offer, then they have one response and it's a quick reply. And it's like, great, someone from our team is going to call you today. We can't wait to talk. And that's it. And then they send it over my contact center and they call them immediately. So there's little room for error because they're not going to write anything themselves. If they say no, if they say F off, if they say any of these things, like they know exactly how to disposition it, how to put it on a drip, how to DNC it. They know what keywords mean what. And that's allowed us to push over. Like we're sending around 24,000 texts a day between my 6 VAs. From that, we push around 115 leads a day to the contact center. And right now we have about a 15% lead to appointment conversion rate, with our appointment to contract rate at about 30% at the moment. And it cuts out all the like back and forth that doesn't need to happen over text. It really, you should be on the phone immediately.
As soon as there's clear interest, and that's something that we always stress, as soon as there's clear interest, no need to go through SMS anymore. I mean, as Michael, my manager here, always says, nobody is going to sell me even a bike if they don't talk to me first. So that's the main thing. And Lauren, talking about the combination of multiple marketing channels, I'd also like to just go back to the VAs for a second again, but talking about combining texting with other marketing channels. By the time that people get in multiple markets, they're in multiple marketing channels usually, right? So what are your must-haves?
So when we send out direct mail, those same campaign segments are put into launch control. We've created launch control templates that correlate to this. I don't want people to think that I'm sending mail over here and not identifying that I'm also texting them. So the templates say, hey, I've sent you a piece of mail, reaching out to see if you're interested. And those are connected that way. We've also started using cold calling a bit with VAs, and this is a different VA team, but there's definitely an opportunity for integration there, because as they're talking to people on the phone, finding out, is this your correct address? We're using them purely for vetting. We're not using them to negotiate or make a deal. They're there to find out, did our skip trace data provide us the right person, the right address, the right phone number? We can push those over into launch control and begin texting them that way, because most likely if we call again, they might not answer, but we're then able to put them on a drip, which is a more automated process. So, and the same with PPL leads. If we don't hear from someone, if we're never able to get in touch with them, while you can dispute PPL leads to get your money back for the lead, I'm still going to take the information they gave me. I'm going to throw it into one big campaign that goes out once a month and find out if we can get a hold of them this way through text messaging. So there's a few different ways you can integrate. And obviously, as you scale, it gets a little bit more convoluted when you have so many markets that you're working with. But like I said, when you've centralized everything, when I have one core player on my team here that's doing PPL, they can pull all the data from every market and put it in launch control. It's not 12 markets giving me all their data and trying to get it into launch control. It's much more controlled that way.
Thanks, Lauren. And guys, just talking about re-engagement and just overall lean marketing that you have through combining different marketing channels. As Lauren said, it goes vice versa too. So it's not just extracting leads out of texting and then getting them on the phone. It's also about how many leads did not close through everything else that you're using that I haven't tried re-engaging with through texting. So you can use a whole separate campaign for that purpose as well. And that's what Lauren just laid out in detail, but that is also practice that we recommend very much. Just discussing drip automations in a sequence of messages. All of your messaging, especially coming from an SMS perspective, should sound like a sequence, like the conversation that you started, that is lasting. Follow-up templates shouldn't sound different than initials. They should sound like a natural sequel to them, as well as drip automations. So that kind of thing is going to be really vital, because you want, I always just go back to, and I've been here in launch for 2 years. So just going back to all the conversations that I've seen through everyone's inbox, right? I always like to start from myself, how I treat my SMS messages once I receive them. Receiving a message from an unknown number, and then imagine receiving a follow-up from that same guy, unrelated to that initial message you sent three months ago. So now you're sending them a follow-up. Obviously, you want to make sure that they know, they're the same person you spoke to a couple of months ago. That's something of a sequence. And of course, drips should be essentially a re-engagement tool, but also a huge time saver for you and for your team. So Lauren, just again, that's where I was going back to the VAs and drip automations combined. How much time do you have your VAs spend on sending batches and then engaging through your inbox, let's say per batch sent? Or
Yeah, so our VAs work Monday through Friday, and they work standard business hours 8 to 6. And they're sending batches throughout that whole time. We quickly learned I hadn't really set up a structure as far as sending and when I wanted it sent, and we'd get VAs just jamming out like 4,000 texts in an hour, and I was like, okay, this is not, it's not going to work, because you're not going to be able to respond. It's harder to track, and then you're also sitting there with nothing to do. And I wanted this process to be very thorough. I wanted every person to be on a drip, or to be DNC'd or put on wrong number. I wanted to make sure we didn't revert back to bad habits that we had before, because as Catherine saw in the past couple of years, I mean, our teams would just send out thousands of texts and do nothing with them. So we have now sectioned it out. So every 30 minutes, they send a batch. They spend time working through their inbox, and then they can also log into admin. Some of them have admin access to assist others with their inbox. And because they're sending throughout the day, when they start their day, the following, they're going to have a pretty substantial inbox to work from. So they're constantly sending and constantly funneling through. I don't really want any downtime. And if there ever is downtime because we've maxed out a market for the day or run out of message templates, which can happen if everyone's sending at the same time, I will give them side projects and things to work on within launch control to better help us, such as I have a Slack channel where they can input any questions they get that maybe I haven't put a keyword to yet. And I have VAs working to create quick replies and do that. But for the most part, as long as they're sending a batch every 30 minutes, responding to their inbox collectively, you can stay active for 8 hours.
Right. Thank you very much, Lauren. And also being in multiple markets to that point, you must have seen markets heat up and cool down on occasion. So you mentioned that you pivot some things with your team through that Slack channel. So once you see a market heat up or cool down, how do you pivot from there? How do you utilize your time? Is it more re-engagement through follow-ups, drips? Is it utilizing a different marketing channel? Basically anything that you found working for you and your team.
Sure. Well, when a market quote unquote cools down, like I always look to my team first to say, where are we slipping up? For example, if we're getting contracts but we can't find buyers, then why are we not focused on finding more buyers for our buyers list? If we're getting leads but they're not converting to appointments, what are we not hitting? What area are we targeting that's not working correctly? They want retail. I take that information and I put it back through my data team, and I'm looking at the segmentation, and I'm going to pull more campaigns. I don't ever want them to work on side projects. I want them to be texting. So VAs specifically should always have something to do. They should always be sending batches. And it's your responsibility as the leader of that group to make sure that that happens, or that you're willing to train someone enough that they can do that for you. One of the biggest things, I know a lot of people probably are aware of this, but launch control has follow-up campaigns. If you don't stay on top of those, you can check one day and there's 30 follow-up campaigns that need to be input and moved over. There's always ways to take a cold market and make it hot. You just have to be looking outside of this, oh, nothing's sticking, nothing's working. Why? You have to keep asking why. And that's where your core team comes in. VAs are not necessarily there for that. They can be if you train them correctly, but it's your job to consistently fill their plate with data.
Thank you so much. And Lauren, this also comes back to being prepared and to having your things on point and being organized once you decide to scale. For those of you that are looking to scale, preparation and organization of all things ever, basically, and then fixing what's not working. So there's no magic trick for any of it, and it's really trial and error, as Lauren mentioned in the beginning of the call. So Lauren, I'll let you reply some of these questions.
Yeah.
Via chat or yeah, go ahead.
Well, Dennis, I saw you ask if there's any investors in the Houston market here. I'm sure there is. It's a great market, and it's actually one of the newest markets that we're venturing into. So if there's anyone in that market, I'd love to speak with you after, because we're always looking for JV deals. So just to plug myself there. But also the next question was from Ken about HubSpot as a CRM. We use HubSpot. Well, we're starting to use HubSpot more recently. We used to use ActiveCampaign to host our buyers lists and to send all of our emails. We're switching to HubSpot, and we're going to use that as the CRM that manages our buyers and our investors. But our largest CRM system was actually created in-house. We have a product team that's building Rebuilt One, which is a wholesaler investor platform CRM. So that's what we're using for the time being. But HubSpot is a great resource, especially for outside marketing resources, for social media, for email marketing. I highly recommend it, and I'm a big fan. I don't understand the question about land. What was that? It said,
Sorry.
how do you measure landowner motivation as a land flipper? Oh, okay. So motivation to sell land to me is all about price. We don't move a lot of land. I'm not gonna lie about that. Land, especially within metro areas, is really hard to come by. And then in more rural areas, it's easy to come by but hard to move. But it's all about price and perkability. So that's what we use to measure. If someone's owned land for 30 years and they've never perked it and they want $100,000, it's probably not worth that. So we definitely look at price and what they've done with the land or what's been done with it in the past to determine the motivation and whether we move it to from a prospect to a lead.
Lauren, I have a question for the audience here. Basically just talking about strategies when markets fluctuate. So that one's still an important one for me, and I also believe that many people ask that question. So is there anyone else around here besides Lauren that would like to share any proven strategies and how to pivot when markets fluctuate? Anyone that has had that experience, speak now, please. Anyone that would like to share? Hey, you can also raise hands. All right, or you can share it in the chat box. All is fine. All right, Ken, my assumption would be that we have plenty of wholesalers in the room. So land flipping, I have worked closely with Callan Faulkner and her team, most of her signups. So definitely a lot of land buyers within launch control as customers on this call, probably less than the general audience, but thank you for asking. And Lauren, thanks for expanding. So guys, before we leave some space for more Q&A, Lauren, thanks for answering all these questions along the way, but for sure, if any of you are new to launch control, I'll just leave the sign up link in the chat box. This one in particular is dedicated to the multi-market mastermind. So it will give our success and support teams a bit of a better overview that you came from this event, just for a more tailored experience if you guys decide to join. So this is the link. Okay, Postcard Mania. First time I hear about that one. Interesting. Thanks, Ken. All right. Lauren, would you open just the first question that we might get from anyone? Guys, now please ask all the questions that you haven't gotten to write in the chat box. Anything that just want.
Catherine, may I go?
Sure, Lawrence, please.
Yeah. Lauren, do you use Launch to skip trace all your leads? Also, where do you get your data? Because we exclusively buy our data from batch leads.
Sure. I'm gonna toe a line on a lot of this stuff just because I have to keep some secrets to myself. But we do skip trace. We used to skip trace through launch control. It wasn't a matter of that we didn't like it. It was that we needed to, again, centralize that space. We had people one-off skip tracing data that we may have skip traced elsewhere. So we were spending a ton of money. So because of that, we have centralized and we use batch skip right now. But that will probably change as we source different vendors. We're looking at REI skip. There's a few different options. And that's mainly because we're looking to skip trace our entire universe, which why I call my investable universe. And that's hundreds of thousands of leads, right? So the cost of that can be pretty substantial, which is the only reason I look for one vendor that can give us one price. But launch control was always great for us when we used it. It was just a matter of not letting it be a free reign to anyone.
Lawrence, I think
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just a question I had. You mentioned you are vertically integrating with lending and whatever. I'm just curious, what type of lending? Are you talking about retail lending or hard money lending? How did you do that, or what kind of a setup do you have?
Yeah, so we white label and we offer lending for hard money. Yeah, so we do hard money lending with all of our investors. Yep.
Cool.
And Will, since you spoke up, guys, we have Will Weeble here. You're all going to have a pleasure hearing from him next month during our next mastermind sit down. So stay tuned. Will has a ton of education to offer when it comes to real estate and his arsenal. So definitely looking forward.
A lot of mistakes were made over the years.
Trial and error universal across all, definitely. Guys, any other questions? We have a couple of more minutes left, but Lauren, thank you for all the value shared so far during this call. I think everyone appreciates it.
I do have a question for everybody. Would you all mind networking, like say through Facebook or Instagram? I'd love to connect with you all and just share what's working for us, and also perhaps masterminding outside of this call.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Are you all in the Facebook group, or what would be the best way to get a hold of everybody?
If you all want, I will share a link to the Facebook group to those that don't have it. But since we had some streaming issues, we're going to be posting a recording of this call soon enough. So if you guys want, we can just leave a space underneath that video for you all to exchange emails. I think that would not be a bad workaround. Thoughts? Okay.
Yeah, that would be great if we could. I'm not sure if there's a way to save the meeting chat. I see people posting their emails already in there.
Unfortunately, no, but this is the Facebook group. So if you guys are not members yet, we will approve the requests, and then we're going to have the recording very soon up there. So you can share your emails in that one or in your DMs, however you prefer.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Catherine and Lauren. Before I hop off here, I noticed that there were some people who were looking for a CRM solution. So I'm actually launching a CRM product, and it's integrated with our phone system, email system, website, landing page, and a whole bunch of other automations and even AI. So if anybody wants to be a beta user, you can try it out for free for the next month and a half-ish. Just let me know, and I can help you all with your CRM problems.
All right, Lorenzo, have you spoken to my team recently? Because somehow you went under my radar, but now I'm interested in talking to you.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to get a hold of your marketing team.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We'll get to the bottom of that soon enough, trust me.
Okay. Are you in the
Right.
Facebook group?
Of course, yeah. So
Okay, cool. I'll connect there.
all right, it's a deal, and I also think we got someone from our marketing team in this call, but I won't call them out. However,
Yes.
someone will
And-
connect soon enough.
And I want to promote launch control through my platform because we've been dealing with Twilio for the past year and a half, and it's just been a disaster. So I'm done with that ship, and I'm a raving fan of launch control now.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
hearing that. Let's try and make even more of a fan. That's always the thank you guys.
Yeah.
Lauren, anything that you would like to share as, let's say, an ending statement before we go and
Sure. Well, to follow up with this, I am a big fan of launch control. The enterprise account has been such a breeze for us to set up. I've been doing it as one person just because we were doing some organizational changes and I wanted to make sure it got done and got done right. And I was able to do it very quickly, and I'm very happy with that. So if you are looking to do multi-markets, this is the easiest way to not be logging in and out and back and forth, and make sure to train your VAs. That's my biggest biggest flip that I had for so long, was I wasn't training correctly and I wasn't dedicating that time. And I can't recommend it enough from the front. Just like start training immediately and continue training every week.
Lauren, thank you so much. Conversation with you of value as always. So guys, thank you for attending. This was the first kickoff mastermind call. Again, continuing with Will next month. Thank you, Ken, for your great participation, and everyone else. So really hope to reconnect with some of you, even as speakers during these calls, to see any new launchers potentially, but also help everyone and anyone scale as far as SMS engagement strategies go. Appreciate all of your time. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks so much, Catherine. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See you all. Goodbye.